What's going on, everyone? Welcome to ThursdAI for July 3rd. This is our first episode of the second half of 2025. Welcome. My name is Alex Volkov. I'm an AI evangelist with Weights and Biases. I'm so happy to be back with you all here on ThursdAI to talk to you about everything that happened in AI this week, everything that we deem important, everything that folks talked about. And very happy to be also joined by my friends and co-hosts. Today we have Jan Peleg and Wolf from Raven Wolf. Welcome, folks. Welcome. Hello. How are things? How are you guys doing?
What a week. What a week. Alex is so back and AI is so back.
What topic of conversation is going to be the most interesting for you today?
Look, AI became sports betting. It's the season.
Absolutely. Speaking of which, I want to announce, folks, I have breaking news. ThursdAI was acquired by Meta Superintelligence team. All of us get $100 million signing bonuses.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go.
We did it.
Yes.
I saw it coming.
Sohan.
Yeah. Soham is the host. No, we did not get $100 million signing bonuses or $300 million packages, but some folks who joined the Meta Superintelligence Labs, the newly formed Meta Superintelligence Labs under Alexander Wang and Nat Friedman. Apparently, he doesn't report into that dude. Some folks did get those packages, including, I think, some previous guests of ThursdAI, maybe. We're going to definitely cover this because there's been huge news this week. Not a lot of releases from the main labs, but a lot of discussion main labs. Wolfram, what about you, sir? What's your topic of interest this week?
I'm happy that you are back. Great that you are hosting again. So it was very hard last week. My respect has grown even more for you. The interesting topics here, lots of models, especially interested in the mystery model, the alpha, that we have been speculating about. So that is interesting. Lots of cool new models. Let's talk about the stuff that we have on the list because there's so much again.
Yeah, we should get started with the TLDR. I'll just say hello to LDJ, and I will tell you guys that today we have a very interesting show. We have two guests joining us. At first, we're going to have Michael Luo from Agentica, and they work together with ThursdAI, and they've trained the best SWE model with RL, and we're going to ask them all about this with reinforcement learning. And the second guest we'll have is Ivan Burazin, the founder and CEO of Daytona, which may be the biggest infrastructure company you've never heard of, the fastest growing infrastructure company for AI and agents. We're definitely going to be a very interesting conversation. So LDJ, welcome to the show, to the stage. How are you, man? What was the most interesting piece of AI news for you this week?
Yeah, another great Thursday so far this week. Really just a lot of the new Zuck hire news. So that'll be interesting to cover. I have a lot of notes on that. And there's a couple of models from Seed 1.6. I think that was this week from ByteDance, I want to say. There's so many Chinese labs at this point. I think those are the main two things on my mind. And probably, of course, as always, a few things that we have on the list that I haven't even heard of yet.
Yep, that's what we're here for. All right, folks, I think with this, it's time.
Microsoft fumbles the Wizard LM team. Tencent.
It's been a while. It's just like Tencent just released like a thing that the Wizard LM team, the great Wizard LM team launched, but they've been releasing. But yeah, it's very clear Microsoft have lost. While Zuck hires very expensive people in AI, Microsoft is losing them because they pulled back the releases. You guys remember this, right? All right, we're going to talk about all of this. Folks, stay around with us. I think we have a transition for TLDR. Yeah, we do. Hell yeah. And we're back. This is the TLDR. This is the corner on ThursdAI where we talk We'll give you a brief TLDR of everything that we're going to cover. Some of the things we're not going to be able to cover. We're just going to run through them super quick. But so you know that everything that happened, and maybe you don't have the 2 hours to spend with us. All right, folks. So today on the show, as I said, we have 2 guests, Ivan Burazin from Daytona and Michael Luo from Agentica, talking to us about all kinds of different interesting things. We also have our co-hosts here as well, Wolfram, Raven Wolf, Jan Peleg, and LDJ. Nistan may join us in any point. And my name is Alex Volkov. I'm your host, AI evangelist with weights and biases. In open source, we had the week of Chinese companies, new ones and old ones, releasing multiple things. So we had Baidu, a huge Chinese company, open source ERNIE 4.5. Baidu previously didn't like open source, and this week Baidu decided, no, actually, like most of my competitors and most of my peers in China releasing open source will release open source as well. Baidu releases open source's ERNIE 4.5 series. They have 10 powerful models over there. They like all close to R1 in different things, supporting quantization methods. We're going to talk about those. We also have another Chinese company, like somebody said here, it's hard to follow all of them. Tencent releases Hunyuan. If you guys remember HY video that we talked about, it was like one of the biggest first open source video models that was cool. Since then, there's a lot. Hunyuan was that. This is the Wizard LM team that Microsoft has. Tencent, they released Hunyuan, 13 active billion parameters. They call it A13B instruct, but it's like an 80 billion parameter model. Yeah, I think it's 80 billion with just 30 billion active parameters. This model looks better than DeepSeek, looks better than different things. It's not a reasoning model though. Neither is it is a reasoning model, but ERNIE isn't. We also have Huawei launch Pangu Pro. Huawei, the chip maker. Pangu Pro, 72 billion parameter MOE. Many of these models are really hard to like even try. The interesting thing about this one, folks, is Huawei has their own chips. And Huawei has trained this model on their own chips. They call them NPUs, Ascend NPUs. And this is, as far as I know, one of the first big models that was not trained on standard kind of GPU hardware. We know of models get inference on non-standard hardware. We're launching Pangu. And our interview today, the first interview will be with Michael Luo from Agentica. And these folks, together with the folks from ThursdAI, they have trained some open source RL coding agent that gets 59% on SWE verified and gets to the top of the open source models, right? So you guys remember, we, even at Weights and Biases, we got to the top of SWE verified with 64, I believe, percent. And since then, multiple cloud codes and different things get crazy amounts on that benchmark. This is the top open source result. And so we're definitely going to be very interested.
One of the top, not exactly the top, but one of the top, I think. Isn't Mistral's coding model even higher? But we can look at it later.
We'll take a look. It could be that Mistral's higher. Yeah. And they have a different hardness, and we're definitely going to chat about this. And all they did is RL. So they took Quen models and did RL on top of them. And that should be all they did. It's going to be a very interesting conversation. All right, moving on to big companies and LLMs. We have fairly quiet-ish week from releases perspective from big models. Cloudflare is a big company that made some waves. They launched one-click AI bot blocking. As you guys all know, Cloudflare said enough, and they have launched a protection service that will block the bots that listen to these robots.txt from scraping your website unless they pay. And many companies have signed up. There's also a new secret 1 million context model being tested on OpenRouter. We don't know what this model is. It's called Cypher Alpha. If you go to OpenRouter, it's free right now. It's 1 million context. It's fairly quick. I haven't seen any reasoning tokens, but it's fairly quick. Super quick Gemini Pro returned to the free tier on Google. So if you are a user of that, you definitely should test that out. Microsoft released something super cool. It's called Microsoft MAI-DxO. It's an AI that outperforms doctors on open-ended medical cases. Would love to cover this because one of the things that I'm waiting for is the AI doctor future, for sure. And we have something called Chai Discovery, also in the medical-ish field, launches Chai 2, which is zero-shot generative AI for antibody design. And also they have claim breakthroughs over there as well. Obviously, we have some hiring news as well, which I broke down to a different category, which I call sports news. And at least we should mention this because Meta AI has a new AI team. They previously had Meta Fair and then Meta AI. And now they have consolidated this into a new org that Zuck calls Meta Superintelligence Labs, MSL, under Alex Wang and Nat Friedman. We talked about this for every episode for the past few weeks. Zuck is on a hiring spree, and we're going to talk some numbers, some trades, some people, and some very big checks, very life-changing big checks for those people. And also we have in the same corner, we have Cursor hiring 2 folks out of Anthropic, for the folks who came up with Cloud Code, one of them becoming the top head of engineering. So we have some sports news to cover, maybe not tons, but for those of you who are interested, we will cover this. In this week's Buzz, the category where I talk about everything related to weights and biases, I want to invite you all who are in San Francisco to our hackathon happening on July 12th and 13th, which is in 10 days in San Francisco in our offices. This is the hackathon I talked to you about before. We moved it and now it's coming. It's in collaboration with Google Cloud, and we're going to have very cool prizes. I'm very excited for this. I'm going to be there, and I'm looking forward to meet all of you there as well. In vision and video category, very interesting release from Mirage. It's a real-time AI native game engine with a playable demo. I will say this slowly again. It's an AI native game engine. We showed you some world models before. This one has actual controls. You can run and walk, and I think we showed examples of something like this. But it's a game engine. You can jump, you can hit. There's like a GTA in there. We're going to show you an example of this live on stream because it's just so cool. And I also have this cool new workflow of restyling videos that I want to share with you guys as well. It's like a combination of 2 models. One of them is Luma Modify, which modifies videos. So this is a cool workflow that turns your videos into whatever you want. If you guys remember, we did some stuff like this before. In voice and audio, we have 2 releases. One of them is like less important. We finally have Qt AI TTS. So the Qt AI, the French company that launched Moshi, and we talked about them. I think we've been talking about Qt AI TTS for a long time. Finally, they released it. They have models there. They also have the unmute.sh kind of infrastructure they released for full end-to-end conversations with robots. They have Mistral backing this for the LLM stuff. If you guys remember Moshi, it was dumb. Mistral is a little bit smarter. It's pretty cool. We can maybe even talk with it live on the show. And we also have Qwen launching TTS, and that's only in Chinese with multiple dialects, but not something that we will enjoy, I think, on our English-speaking show. But for our Chinese-speaking listeners,
but it has English too. It
has
bilingual.
English?
On the Hugging Face page somewhere it says
right,
it's
yeah.
bilingual.
So maybe on their website I only saw Chinese. But yeah, it has English too. Okay, cool. So we'll cover both of them. Thank you, Wolfram. AI art and diffusion, I haven't seen many new things. So we're going to skip this category probably unless something breaking news launches. And in the second part of the show, we're going to chat with Ivan Burazin from Daytona to talk about agent infrastructure. And I think the last thing that we have on the docket is tools. Cursor launches a web and mobile engines. So now you can launch things in Cursor from the web. You don't have to have it installed. And you can do this on the go on your mobile phone. And then it will continue. You can pick it up in Cursor. I think it's pretty cool. I think it feels like a big break with like background agents and everything.
Yeah, Alex, we need the funeral music for
Cloud
Opus.
No. Yes, folks. We are sad to announce. We've done this before. We did a few words of parting from GPT 4.5, our dearest friend. And we're sad to announce also that Cloud Opus 3 is going to be deprecated by Anthropic very soon. And it's sad. We love Cloud Opus. It's been with us for a brief hot minute, and we really enjoyed it. It was a good model.
Absolute good model.
So anything else major that I've missed? Unless
Craft is a video generation model that also does audio. I think it's the first that is open weights where you can generate audio to the video in one instant from a prompt. So you give it a prompt and it creates a video and audio to match it.
And that's open source, right?
That's open.
Open source video and audio model. Please send me a link for this. So we'll cover this once we get to voice and vision audio. All right, let's go. Open source.
I pushed the paper on medical AI. Why doesn't it let me post in the chat?
Listen, Open source AI, let's get it started. Right, folks, in open source, we have it's clear that the Chinese folks are winning the open source. This is maybe why Zuck is like paying a lot of money, and hopefully they're going to spend it on open source as well. But the Chinese companies are absolutely killing it with open source this week. We had multiple releases. I think I have 3, but I'm pretty sure that I think ByteDance also had something. I'm not sure, but definitely last week ByteDance had something. So let's go through them one by one and just talk about these models a little bit. And if you guys have comments, please let me know. Raise your hands. We're going to cover this as well. I will make sure to present my screen there, so folks who are tuning in, folks who are only listening, by the way, we have a video version of the show where you're welcome to tune in on YouTube or on X. But if you are only listening, we'll try to describe everything we see for you so that you won't feel out. So we have Baidu releasing ERNIE 4.5. ERNIE has been around for a minute. I think they started competing with ChatGPT for the past 2 years, and they've been releasing ERNIE, never in open source though, never in an English interface that you could use ERNIE. It was just for the Chinese folks, and now ERNIE is open source. They previously denounced open source even. As far as I heard, I didn't see the confirmation for this, but I heard that this company denounced open source. Maybe next week. So it's a crazy open source drop from ERNIE. They released like 10 models over there, models ranging from as big as 424 billion to as small as 0.3 billion. I never know what to make of these releases, folks. Let's talk about this for a second. They released like a whole suite of models, and I gotta wonder who's gonna use all of this and what's the point. We should probably discuss. It seems at this point the Chinese folks are just racing each other to some extent. And Yam, you said the sports metaphor. This does feel like the same company, maybe a new company, playing the same kind of ish game and winning here and winning there. Apache 2 license, which is great. We can definitely clap for that. Apache 2 license. LDJ, if you have a comment, jump in there. With 128K context window for ERNIE. And the architecture supports images, video, text as input. I haven't seen native video models for a while. So that's very cool. Also, I believe they released a paper as well. So not only did they give us models, not only Apache 2, they also have a paper with some interesting, not super novel, but some interesting techniques. And I can share this link with folks here who can take a look and see if there's interesting something in there. They have multimodal bootstrapping there for vision, language alignment, different things as well. Comments on this model on ERNIE, folks? I've tried it a little bit. Go ahead, LDA.
Yeah, on the note of what you were saying of what is the reason for putting this out, I think it's similar to why OpenAI is probably going to start putting out some open source. Is just, I think a lot of it really is advertisement for new talent. And I think we've already just seen recently, which we'll probably cover on the show later, the Wizard LM team left to, I forgot which company it was,
Tencent.
but some Chinese lab, Tencent. And I think that goes to show that a lot of developers and researchers and engineers do really want to actually contribute to open source and see that as a big incentive in the culture of where they want to work. And I think this helps attract those people.
Yeah, hiring definitely. I was more referring to the fact that like when they release like 10 models, what do they expect? Maybe they want to see which one people they use. It's very interesting because
I always applaud them if they have all the sizes, because different audiences, different users have different systems. And even the 0.3B, for example, you can use it for speculative decoding, since it's the same model type and architecture. So then you can speed up the bigger ones and then say, the sizes. So you usually have a big model and then it's quantized heavily. So this would actually make sense to check out and benchmark if a big model quantized is better in this case, or if you can use one that is smaller. In this case, it always depends on the model. The one thing I dislike, but the drawback here is that the architecture is so new that I couldn't run it with the software I have at my disposal at the moment. So I couldn't test it yet. I'm pretty sure that they will get a lot of support, considering they are available for all these ranges. If it's just one huge model like DeepSeek, that limits the audience. So this is probably also a way to get more support.
It's more than that. You naturally get all these artifacts during training. You start with the smaller models, then you increase the sizes, and you get multiple checkpoints throughout the training. I think it's a good thing for companies that do decide to release anything to just release all the artifacts, even if it might look like there are many models and most of them are not going to use. They have a lot of research value in them, all the artifacts and all the checkpoints, and having all of them in different sizes throughout the training allows you to compare, to see the influence of increasing the size, increasing more data, and so on. especially if you're talking about a new architecture, a novel architecture that we don't understand fully yet, and you want to convince us all that this is the best approach. So there is nothing better for you to do than release multiple artifacts in different sizes throughout your training, because it's pretty convincing. We can play with it, we can see. And just like Wolfram said, it's not an easy thing to run anymore. These things are not easy to run locally. So the more you have, if smaller or larger, the better for everyone. Yeah, I think it's great. But I get it. If you look at their Hugging Face page, there are like 20 different models, and you're not entirely sure what you need to run at.
The thing we love, absolutely, all of us on the show, is that companies release base models. Because we know that the fine-tuning community takes those base models, then does some different RL on top of them, some different fine-tuning on top of them, and they get even better results. And we've seen this multiple times with Mistral. We've seen this with Quen. We keep seeing this with Quen. We're going to see this with Quen with the SWE agent, Deep SWE, that we're going to talk about next. And the one thing I'll highlight before LDJ is this model supports FP8, int8, int4, and even 2-bit quantization with custom algorithms like convolutional code quantization. LDJ, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to mention another point of having a bunch of different sizes released and then a bunch of different versions. I think it's really helpful for benchmarks and other labs or organizations or universities that want to do studies where they're evaluating the differences between different sizes and between different scales. And this raises the chance that they'll use Baidu's model, or ERNIE 4.5 in this case, for those types of studies, because having such a variety of sizes to choose from.
Yeah. What else can we say about this model? They have a massive MOE in there. There's 24 billion parameters, and it's around 47 billion active ones. They compare it to OpenAI 01, and on a few visual knowledge tasks, for example, they actually beat 01, which is very interesting. They have a few docs and charts here. You can take a look if you're watching with us. I think Doc VQA, OpenAI 01 is at 81%. Their ERNIE 4.5, 424 billion parameters, 47 active is 93 versus OpenAI's 81. So almost like 12 points difference there. And they beat them on multiple other things, multimodal reasoning, a few of them as well. Very interesting release. I'm very happy. I'm applauding for this. As well as, folks, just to mention, some labs that we know, or some labs that we see, come up with a model they trained just now and they release it. Yeah, we beat it on benchmarks, and sometimes it's bullshit. Many of these models you have to run in production. Like OpenAI has been running ChatGPT for 3 years now, and Baidu has been running ERNIE. We just didn't get exposed to this. I remember talking about ERNIE. I remember watching a Baidu live translated thing on X when they're like, hey, we have this. They have ERNIE in production in multiple things. There's like chatbots, like it goes. Baidu is a huge company. You can maybe compare this to like the equivalent of Google even. There's like huge company. They've been running ERNIE for a while. It's 4.5. This model is a great model. Definitely in addition to the landscape, and with Apache 2 license, there's no reason to not try it. Very interesting. The next Chinese competitor, also a huge company, Tencent, has been with us for a minute. We've talked about Hunyuan Video before. We've talked about multiple releases from them. They have hired away from Microsoft an incredible team. It's called WizardLM. What can we say about WizardLM that folks don't know? Maybe folks don't follow with us for a while.
Oh, they are among the first and absolutely among the leading with their models from the beginning until they were acquired.
Yeah,
You can say.
Microsoft killed WizardLM, basically.
They didn't actually prevent them from being a thing, right?
Oh yeah.
Took out the GitHubs. That was bad.
Mister, you want
That's
a
all.
story or?
That's all I want to say, really.
Okay. Basically, the story, from what we know, is that WizardLM consistently dropped incredibly leading open source models one after the other. They were great from the beginning. Their whole approach in one sentence is make data harder, ask a model to make a data point harder, and then use the harder data to accumulately train the model on harder and harder benchmarks. That's in a single sentence, but it's 2 years of ongoing research, and they were always leading and were great. Until one day they released a model which is good, too good, you can say. And it was too good for probably some people internally in Microsoft, because early on it was scraped out from the internet, both the model, the paper, the GitHub, the code, everything. And everyone were confused. What is going on? The official message that we got was something along the lines of they didn't go through the
toxicity testing.
And okay, we all wanted to believe that it's more than a year later, and the model still didn't pass the safety procedure up to this point. Meanwhile, the team was just acquired by Tencent, and Tencent, as everybody knows, all around the world, is a huge company. They probably get pretty good resources over there.
We all got very upset when Wizard LM models released and got yanked back. And we're like, what the hell? And we got the story of, hey, didn't pass some vibe, whatever, but it was supposed to then get re-released. It didn't. It was really annoying.
Makes sense, because the model had already been quantized, so the model itself was still on Hugging Face in other repos.
Take things back from the internet.
I just wanted to say about this, there was a lot of confusion online because the model was released, I think, with Apache 2 license. And what does it mean when it's being scrapped from the internet? Does it mean that if I download it, can I use it? Can I not use it? There are license problems with just removing an Apache 2 artifact from the internet. So it's not just something that you can do without explaining. At least explain what is going on.
We didn't get anything.
We didn't get anything.
We do know that Microsoft favors the FI team because FI models were consistently getting released with all the safety things. And so this amazing team, Wizard LM, we don't know how many people there are, right? We don't know like the size of this team.
Currently, we don't know.
Yeah, we need to do our sources better. Folks who are listening to us, if you know the Wizard LM folks, we would love to chat with them, give them some stage. Maybe now they're not Microsoft, they can talk to us. They have released a new model. It's called Hunyuan A13B, a mixture of experts with 13 billion parameter instruct tuned. They claim new open source contender. They have 256 context window, and I think they're focusing on long context among models. We saw models with 1 million already in the wild, but they showcase some things around getting very good results compared to Gemini 2.5 Pro with long bench and different penguin scrolls. I haven't seen penguin scrolls yet. This is a new eval for me. The interesting thing about this release is the license. Although we just gave Microsoft a little bit of shit about Wizard LM, the license on this means that Wolfram, for example, cannot use this model commercially because the license excludes EU, UK, and South Korea.
So if you follow the license, you probably couldn't use it.
Yeah, the model's safe tensors are on the hub.
I didn't know. That's like exclusively excluding Europe? I didn't know that.
You also cannot use this model if you have over 100 million active users, which excludes most open source companies and maybe some others, many AI companies. You cannot use this model to improve this model. There's like a bunch of restrictions in this license. They released Artifacts Bench, designed to bridge the visual and interactive gap in code evaluations, and C3 Bench, agent-specific evaluation datasets. So they released those two datasets together. They're also on Hugging Face. What can we tell you about this model in terms of comparisons? It doesn't beat either O1 or R1 from DeepSeek on any mathematics besides AI-Me 2025, it gets less score. I'm always very curious about models that don't generalize to the next version of a benchmark, right? AI-Me is competition math, as we know, and so these models basically do whatever the math Olympiads compete, and we know the reasoning models is very good at those exact tasks. That's the kind of the one benchmark that OpenAI came up. And when I see a model that gets 87% on last year's and then 76% on this year that just came out, this smells like overfitting to me just a little bit.
Something to say. The size of this model, have you asked yourself why specifically all the large models of the previous generation were always until 70B parameters? The reason for that is that the model can fit into a single machine in FP16. There is a very specific size of models that this number represents. What you see here is a model that specifically the size of this checkpoint is first feeding into a single machine.
Yep.
So comparing it to other models of its size, it is incredible. Okay, look, you can compare it to, I don't know, GPT 4.1 or a monster like this. Yes, absolutely, GPT 4.1 probably is better, but it is an incredible model for its size. And for its size, not just because I want to run it on my laptop, but you can use it for commercial uses. You can put it on the cloud on a single instance. There is a good reason to look at the size of this model. And it's all engineering at the end. It's trade-off. You need to compromise. Either you make the model larger or it's more expensive. And so when you compromise to this size, it's a great model. Absolutely. So, probably the best.
Who are not watching, listen, we're talking about the Hunyuan 13 billion parameter active model compared to Qwen 3 22 billion active compared to DeepSeek R1, the previous one. I don't know if we know the active parameters for this one, but it's like a 600 something billion parameter model. And then OpenAI O1, which we don't know the size of, and it's not open source. So I think you're absolutely right. Like for folks who would like to run this on a single machine, cutting down costs, these numbers are insane. Just absolutely insane. 87 on AME 2024. Listen, go ahead, and then we'll move on to talk with Michael from Agentica.
I think this would be a lot better received if it had a more English marketable name, because it is from the Wizard team and they cooked, but because the name sounds very Chinese, most companies are going to completely avoid it just because of that. But it's from the Wizard team. We know who those people are. We know they cook really well.
There's full kitchen in there. Yep.
Yeah, I'm probably going to end up using it, but it also makes it hard for me to market it to other companies to say we're going to use Hunyuan, bro. Where DeepSeek was a lot easier, right? We shouldn't look too much at the benchmark. It's a very strong team with a very good reputation behind this model.
With very long context as well. 256 context window over there.
It's a lot better than most people are.
I also want to highlight this thing. LDJ, we'll get to you, and then we'll move on to our conversation with Michael. Hybrid fast and slow reasoning modes, switchable for speed or detailed COT outputs. So far, we've seen this in thinking tokens and reasoning tokens with O1 via the API. With Gemini now, you can set up like a reasoning budget with tokens. The open source models, I believe I saw only on and off. Qwen models, for example, gave you the ability to turn on thinking during the inference, which is pretty cool. This one has hybrid and fast and slow reasoning modes, so probably like more or less as well. Great benchmarks. It's up on GitHub and with Docker images. Folks, definitely take a look at the Hunyuan A13. Yeah, the name is horrible here. Give it a name. ERNIE is a great name. ERNIE. All right, listen, you make a great point. Folks, we are moving on. LDJ, one last comment super quick, and then we're moving on.
Yeah, I was just going to note that the active parameters are about half of the full DeepSeek R1, so that's notable, less compute there. And then also, if you look at some of the agentic benchmarks, it's notably outperforming O1 significantly in some of the agentic benchmarks. So it seems like they're putting some emphasis there.
All right, folks, that was Hunyuan, the last model that we know also from a Chinese big company. Huawei launches Pangu Pro, which is 72 billion parameter MOE. The most interesting thing to me about this is it was trained entirely on their Ascend GPUs, sidestepping US sanctions completely and sending a model, the 13 trillion tokens pre-trained, very like a lot of text. And they used 4,000 of these NPUs, not GPUs. So they didn't use NVIDIA or AMD hardware. And the thing that highlighted this is that it achieves up to 1,500 tokens per second per card with the Ascend NPUs, which is a lot. But also, we don't know who has them. But probably many Chinese companies have access to those Huawei chips. All right, folks, we're moving on. And the last thing maybe in open source LLMs is SWE Preview. It's an open source RL coding agent that hit 59% on SWE-bench verified. And to chat about this with us, we have a friend coming back, Michael. Welcome back, Michael Luo. Please feel free to introduce yourself to folks who haven't heard your voice in a while and who you are and why you're here on the show. And then we'll talk about SWE.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, it's nice to meet you all again. Last time we were here because of DeepCoder, and now it's here with SWE. Just a quick introduction. Currently a PhD student under Professor Jan Stoico, and we're basically built this project called Agentica, and its main goal is to democratize reinforcement learning for LLMs. And SWE is the third model along this effort, where our first two models were called DeepScaler and DeepCoder. And for SWE is really about optimizing for agentic use case and multi-step reinforcement learning beyond just reasoning, because reasoning I think will be hot maybe into the next couple of months, but beyond that, agents need to start acting in the real world and do real stuff.
Yeah. All right, Michael, Berkeley, correct?
Yes.
Awesome. Welcome back. It's great to have you here as well again. And the thing that I was very interested in is, first of all, you used the Qwen model. I think you guys used Qwen models before. Would love to hear from you how is working with the Qwen models. But also, I want to hear about, this is like one of the top open weight benchmarks on SWE-bench, right? Like before, we always talked about the weights and biases achievement. We were top there for a month and a half, and now we chatted with Open Hands, and those folks, they consistently hit very high benchmarks in SWE-bench with their like kind of scaffolding. They sometimes use different models like reasoning models from OpenAI and different things. You guys used Qwen 32 billion parameter to get this like awesome achievement. What did you do? How did you do it? And tell us a bit about the project.
So really here is before DeepSuite, everyone was doing SFT or distillation, right? So I'm basically going to I'm probably basically, because Claude 3.7 and Claude 4 are the best in the market right now, especially for proprietary models, because it's a very nice code RL team and coding team in Anthropic that's really training this engagers up there, right? Like they actually got up to 80% SWE, I think, right? Yeah. So really what people usually do is I take all the trajectories generated from Claude and I'm going to steal it back to my base model, and then somehow it will do well, right? And I'm going to open source that.
I want to pause you here just for a sec. Trajectories?
Yeah, trajectories is like a sequence of actions that you take, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone takes actions in the world, and basically a trajectory can be seen as like a automatic conversation, right? Before you had ChatGPT, where you had a conversation between you and ChatGPT, but here is more automatic, right? The user is your environment and the feedback from your environment, and basically the LM assistant is how they react based on the environment.
Awesome. So you take those trajectories. Some of them are submitted to the SWE competition as well. Like you can actually see other competitors and like how their agents think, right? So you basically get access to those, and then you train your own model to think like that and to do those steps in kind of sequence similar to this, right?
Exactly. But the key part here is, at the end of the day, you're still relying on an expert, right? You're relying on some people in the number one people to basically distill back into your own model, right? But a key question to ask is, how do you do this without any of this supervision, right? How do you ensure that I can train something by just having experience, by having me just going out to the environment, experiencing things and learning about myself, right? And that's really where RL helps stand out, because it can help you go beyond an expert. If we suppose that we do apply RL on a much larger model, we could probably do better, for example.
I see. RL, for folks again listening, sometimes we do these breaks. We talk to experts and then we're like, I'm playing the village idiots. RL is reinforcement learning. It's been getting a lot of interest lately after DeepSeek with some GRPO and different things. I've seen we're riding the wave here in ThursdAI there's a whole DPO phase for fine-tuning, and then the company started releasing instruct models of their own. They're very good, very hard to fine-tune against them and beat any type of score. So fine-tuning took a backseat, and now we're seeing this incredible resurgence of excitement with RL. Could you tell us a little bit why you guys got excited with using RL for this, and why generally you think the community is getting back to the very much excitement of this technology, what it does?
Yes, I think RL is resurging for a very strong reason, right? The first reason is because pre-training is hitting a limit, right? Especially back in the day where it was already hitting a limit was autonomous driving, right? Basically, if you want to see linear increased performance, you have to 10x your data, right? So eventually you're going to run out of data. Otherwise, you have to scale your collection across multiple drivers, right? Exactly what Waymo's doing right now, right? You see a bunch of those cars and that stuff. So really here is a similar case for pre-training, right? Now I'm script entire web corpus. And now all my data, I've trained all my data over several epochs. What's next, right? I have no more data left.
Yeah.
So suppose now that you have a model that basically knows the entire world. It has this entire foundational knowledge about how the road works and etc. But it doesn't know how to really navigate the road, how things really connect with each other, really. It doesn't know things end to end, basically. That's where reinforcement comes in. It's your end-to-end solution if you want to extract the most performance out of your foundational knowledge, right? Especially in our case, we used QN3 because we found that QN3 had really good foundational knowledge, had really good priors. So they really kudos to QN3 team or the QN team for really pushing out a really great model. And through that, you can actually basically teach a model how to learn how to navigate through different environments.
I'll just pause here and say, for folks who are listening, Alibaba Qwen. Those folks, like the folks who come to the show sometimes, Qwen 3 is an incredible family of models. We've seen them as a base for multiple things as well.
So the pre-training and also mid-training is also very, very good. And this is something you don't see with other types of models. For example, all
right, so let's talk about DeepSuite super quick. So you guys use these cool techniques, reinforcement learning. Basically, did you use the trajectories that you got for the reinforcement learning? When you train reinforcement learning, you need an objective, right? On some stuff. What was the objective here for SWE? How did you check this? Talk to me about some details.
Yeah, prior in DeepCoder, right? Here, objective was, hey, I want to produce a method that'll basically solve this competitive programming problem, where I pass all the unit tests. And here is very similar. Instead of writing a method, you propose a patch. And the patch is basically your GitHub PR get difference with respect to your code base. So that once you apply the patch, it passes all the tests. Because before that patch, something is broken, right? It has to automatically figure out what is broken. So it's more difficult than competitive coding in the sense that It has to learn how to navigate through a code base and know to figure out what is right or wrong, right? And then after that, it can use its own internal reasoning in order to figure out how to exactly fix that. And the objective here is I want to pass all my code base tests. Yes.
Awesome. And so RL obviously works for verifiable domains way better than just open. Like creative writing for RL is going to be very hard. But here you can say, okay, if this passes, then like optimize for this and then keep training. How long did you take to do this? What kind of software, hardware? Give us a little bit technical details about how this kind of effort happens.
Yeah, we trained for kind of a week on 64 H100s, given that we're just a bunch of academic research right now, probably ready to head out, ready to graduate. But really here is we're resource constrained. If we had a lot more resources, it could be a lot better.
Yep.
Sure. Yeah. But with 64 GPUs, we were able to train this in a week. And of course, before that, there's a lot of experimentation, like what is right or what is wrong.
We definitely are in the habit of helping folks with this. If you want to sponsor folks like Michael and Agentica, please reach out. We'll connect. If you have GPUs that are idle, please reach out. We'll definitely connect. Yam is pointing at my own thing, I believe, as well. But yeah, definitely, folks, we've seen those connections happen. Please reach out. We'll connect you with Michael. We would love to see different things like this. I gotta wonder if you guys trained on Qwen 3 72 billion parameters, if you're gonna beat SWE. It's gonna be very, very interesting. Tell us about what you saw there.
There's actually a lot of merge behaviors. You want to see some long-form reasoning across multiple environment steps, right? Your agent's going to try to search your different code bases, try to do many different things, right? Extract keywords out of different files, modify different files and see if it works, generate tests to verify if it's correct. One really interesting behavior we saw is that the LM learns to become a bit more paranoid. Before it was training, when you start with the Q13 base model, it would just simply create a file called reproduce test.py and try to reproduce what's the issue.
Mm-hmm.
But really here is, as you see along the training, especially near when you get towards step 200 or near deep SWE, is really here the model begins to become, hey, maybe my reproduce test.py is not correct. Maybe it's not really fully replicating the bug. So it starts really thinking through, hey, what are the potential edge cases that could actually cause the code to break? And basically by considering edge cases, it becomes a lot more correct because it's becoming it's trying to become more robust in the process. In the sense that if I modify a file and I make a mistake, what do I do next? Oh, whoops, I do not know how to fix my mistake in the very beginning. Right? At the very end, hey, I know I made this mistake and here's how I fix it. Yeah. And now I have backtrack, I can restart again and try something else. So some long form reasoning like that.
All of us who use Cursor, Windsurf, and Cloud Code, we know this problem very well. The thing does a mistake and then just keeps building on this very shaky foundation. Yam, go ahead. I think you had a question as well.
So let's just summarize the task. You have a task that you need to write code for, like in real life, and then you have a bunch of unit tests, if I understand correctly. And you're basically using these unit tests as rewards for the model. How many tests do you pass, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And you're saying that this signal alone made the model pretty much beat the entire benchmark with enough compute. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. And if you can compare it to your previous message of DeepCoder, it was also one of the best coding models out there at the time. And you also did it with not a lot of compute at all. How do you guys do it? Like again and again, back to back, really breaking the benchmarks. What's the secret?
Just crazy dedication. I'll be honest here. Because we lack resources, we have to be really efficient in how we deploy experiments, right? Because every time we get feedback is 2 or 3 days because RL is very slow. So really here is, first of all, it's a lot of expertise. Like I've been doing RL since I was undergrad, actually. And back in the day, you used to get a lot of stuff working for other PhD students at that time, right? That was helping people get the RL stuff working. So this kind of know-how kind of transfers across the years. So you have the right intuition on what to do. For example, if the entropy is wrong, you know how to fix it, right? Or you know the deep know-hows of our algorithm and know like why something collapsed, for example. So that also helps with the efficiency of your experiments, right? Because if you're in big tech, you can just spam experiments and something will eventually work.
Michael, could you tell us of Together's involvement in this? I obviously reached out and connected by Alpai, who works on I think post-training in Together, and he was also involved in some of this. Could you tell us about Together's involvement as well?
So Together was actually very helpful in this deep SWE endeavor. Right. Number one is help us create the provision of not only the GPUs, but also the Kubernetes cluster. Because when I'm running SWE bench, you have to run each environment in its own isolated Docker container. And you need to run like thousands of them in parallel per RL iteration. They did really help on a bunch of the infrastructure burden. The second part here is it really helped also for the trajectory generation, right? Basically, we had a lot of experiments where we want to do distillation or SFT back into the base model of Deep SWE, right? So that required reducing a lot of trajectories from the model. And they've also helped a lot with the ideation discussion for Deep SWE too.
That sounds awesome. Michael, thank you so much for coming and congratulations on this result. You guys are one of the top open models, SWE bench results, which is incredible. And you've open sourced all of it, which is also great. A great note to end this interview on. Michael Luo from Agentica from Berkeley, in collaboration with Together, trained the best open source RL agent on SWE bench with 59%. Michael, thank you so much for coming up. Congratulations on this work.
And a lot of data sets and stuff. Big applause.
Yeah, big applause. All right, folks, we're moving on as we have an hour into the show. Usually the thing we do on an hour into the show is this week's buzz. Not a lot of this week's buzz, but I will definitely mention a few things. In this week's Buzz, a corner on ThursdAI where I talk about everything related to weights and biases that happened this week. A reminder for folks who are joining us, my name is Alex Volkov. I'm an AI evangelist on the Weave at Weights and Biases team. Weave is the ultimate solution for LLM evaluation and tracking and tracing. And we have been talking to you about the hackathon that we're running in San Francisco, the Weights and Biases office in San Francisco for a while now. And I just want to highlight that it's coming Saturday, July 12th. If you're in San Francisco, please join us. It's 400 Alabama Street. You do have to register before. We have to approve you. But if you mention ThursdAI, I will definitely approve you. We're, I think, very close to filling up the space. The highlight of this is going to be a RoboDog that we are giving out as the first prize. This RoboDog is a Weights and Biases custom RoboDog. It's been a hit in every conference that we took it to. It does all kinds of stuff. Everything on it is getting transcribed into Weave. It's like super, super cool. We're going to give a demo and definitely you want to participate. The hackathon specifically is about agent protocols. So we talk about MCP and A2A. We talked about A2A on the show before with Jason's MCP. Obviously, we mentioned multiple times MCP as well. So if you want to build, if you're new to MCP, you don't get the hype, you don't know what's going on, the hackathon is the best place to come and learn. You go into a room with multiple folks very dedicated to building. You pick one, whatever. We give you some insights. We maybe tell you about how to use Weave for evaluating your agent or for tracing. And then you get to building. And we make sure you're fed, you're well fed. We don't have alcohol there, but you'll have soft drinks and everything. And you have a quiet space to work. Our space is great. We have huge monitors you can connect to. And we're basically giving this space to you to build, to learn, and to maybe win prizes. I think we have around $13,000 or $14,000 cash prizes overall and the dog. So more than welcome. If you want to join, please go to Luma/weavehacks, lu.ma/weavehacks. I'm going to put this up on the screen, lu.ma/weavehacks. We're going to call this series of hackathons Weave Hacks, and this is the first one. So please welcome to join us in San Francisco. Would love to see you. If you are a listener of the show and you want to see me there and come up and say hi, please give me a high five. I love meeting fans of the show. Besides this, I will just mention super briefly that last week, 2 weeks ago, we launched 2 new things, and I will definitely give you some more information about them later. We have an inference service. You can use multiple open source models via the CoreWeave GPUs that we now have the connection to directly in Weave, and we're giving out multiple credits. So if you are interested in running different things on open source, please reach out. You can already get free credits, but if you want some more, please reach out. I'll find a way to give you some credits to the listeners of the show. And also, we launched something called online evaluations. Some of the things that happen on production for your agent or for your LLM app may not work as well as you want them to. And the way to monitor them live is called online evaluations monitors. We launched this feature and you can use the free credits that you have from our inference service to basically run an LLM as a judge agent on a subset of transactions or conversations on production, and they actually evaluate whether or not your agent on production does well. It's a super cool feature. If you want to know more, please reach out to me, Alex Volkov, everywhere, and I will definitely show you how it's done, and I will probably visually show you next week as well. This has been this week's Bugs, folks. Let's continue. We have a lot to talk about. Alrighty, folks, we are back with this incredible shout out from Ivan Fioravanti, our friend. ThursdAI is always amazing. Great job, everyone. And we also have Alex to say, gosh, I love the show. And we just passed 5,500 viewers here. Yam is on the roll. So if you're tuning in from Yam Stream, welcome. You're on ThursdAI, our weekly show about AI. And we are moving to the next category. Yam, the one that you're super excited about. In the big companies, there's movements. There's movements, and we're going to turn into a sports host type show because a lot of exciting things happened in the world of big companies in AI this week. How should we start? Do we start with Meta? I think we start with Meta.
Where do we start? There are so many of them.
So as we previously talked to you guys before, after, let's say lightly, the debacle with Llama 4, where it was released and it was womp a little bit. We were supposed to get the Behemoth as well at some point. We didn't get the Behemoth yet, right? We got Maverick and the other one. And they were not necessarily very performative. There was a lot of jokes about Meta executives getting paid more than the RC release. There was like a lot of stuff. A little bit after a while, we always told you, don't bet against Zuck. Don't bet against Mark Zuckerberg. It's a foolish thing to do. And we are now seeing why. Because Meta is an insanely huge company. They have a market cap of 1.8 trillion, I want to say. Like a very big one. Zuck has been on a hiring spree directly himself. The group chat apparently with him and the chief HR officer and somebody else. People get an email and they get invited to chat and dinner with Zuck and probably get flown out to sweeten the conversation. And the offers that he puts on this little... You imagine the scene in the movie where somebody just doesn't tell you the number. He just writes it down and slides it across the table to you, and you pick it up and you read it. You're like, holy shit. So the number that Zuck puts there for many of these researchers, I think 10, is something like $100 million for the first year. Some of these folks get $100 million for the first year with a total comp over like the next 4 years, around $300 million. What?
Yeah.
Up to that amount, yes. Technically, my salary is also up to that amount, just like on the up to.
Yeah.
Why do these people worth that much money?
Okay, let's start with even if the AI revolution became mainstream 3 years ago, there aren't a lot of people that are proven to know how to train frontier models. The people that know how to do this are in other companies. Basically, what at the moment, at least the way I see it, is that there was an incident. The Llama 4 didn't come out as expected. There were some rumors about the scores, about the reported scores, and the scores that were actually the scores of the model.
Oh, yeah.
Let's say, and it didn't look well. And to the best, I think what we all see at the moment, and correct me if I'm wrong, is Zuck brute forcing his way into the top, hiring by force the key players, superstars from other companies into his own dream team, starting with 3 weeks ago with Alex Wang, buying a large stake in Scale AI.
49%.
Largest data provider in the industry at the moment, by far. And it's a huge acquisition. It's, what was the number? It's in the billions, if I'm correct, right?
Yep. I think 14.
Yeah. What we know is that Alex Wang is going to be running the new team.
So right now it's going to be called Meta Superintelligence Labs. And Meta previously had two teams, famously. There's the FAIR team out of France, I believe they started. Jan LeCun, famously the guy who leads this at FAIR, or one of the chief scientists, and he's still, I think, chief scientist. And then there's also Meta AI team, the folks who were like in charge of Llama and Ahmed Al-Dal, like all those folks, many VPs that folks don't know. And now there's a superseding team that both these teams report to, which is called the Meta Superintelligence Labs. And both FAIR and the previous Llama org is reporting to this, led by Alex Wang and Nat Friedman. Apparently, Nat Friedman, previously CEO of GitHub and one of the most prolific investors in AI in Silicon Valley, is joining there. He's going to co-lead this with Alex Wang, and he has a lot of experience leading large organizations, obviously. And joining them at the top there, likely at the top, is Daniel Gross, also investing with Nat Friedman, a very prolific investor, and he was the CEO of SSI. Safe Superintelligence, the company that Ilya Sutskever, one of the co-founders of OpenAI, has opened. We talked about Ilya multiple times. We actually have a response from Ilya, I believe, right? We have Ilya Sutskever's response. This seems like a very corporate. I don't love this response. Ilya Sutskever said,
I just put the link right now on StreamYard.
Yeah, as Daniel Gross's time with us has been winding down, and as June of 2019, he's officially no longer part of SSI. We're grateful for his early contributions to the company and wish him well in his next endeavor. I am now formally the CEO of SSI, and Daniel Levy, the third co-founder, is the president. The technical team continues to report to me. You may have rumors of companies looking to acquire us. The rumors Ilya is referring to is the fact that Zuck has tried to acquire SSI outright with Ilya, with everyone. I don't know how big the white paper that Zuck needed to write the whole number on needed to be to try and acquire SSI, which is valued in the billions of dollars already. In addition to this, though, the roster of folks that they've poached from OpenAI this week, announced fully poached from OpenAI, is insane. If you look at this list, LDJ, thank you for providing this list. We have 9 people, maybe 10 people from OpenAI, folks who contributed to GPT-4's image generation, foundational contributions of O1, and a long-time collaborator. Oh, is that Tropit? Yeah. Tropit Banzal is like one of the long-time collaborator with Ilya and OpenAI founding researchers from 2017. You have Shua Zhai, I don't know how to pronounce this name, I'm sorry, co-lead of the original Vision Transformer and co-lead of Siglip, and another, Alexander Kolesnikov, co-lead of the Vision Transformer.
Three leaders, 3 co-authors of VIT, 3 co-authors of Vision Transformer. We have the people that started the OG GPT-4, the people that worked on O1, one of the leaders. We have, it's insane, the record here are like, Zuck just pulled out people that worked on all the leading models throughout the entire time. This is absolutely a dream team. Also, Jack from Google DeepMind.
Oh, previous guest on the pod.
What I want to emphasize here is, Zuck, look, Meta is one of the largest companies in human history, okay? They know what they're doing. They have deep pockets. There are other companies, but with all respect, Meta has a lot of cash to burn if they want to brute force their way into AI. What I want to emphasize here is how everything kept in secret until the very moment that everyone at the same time were poached. It's something that you plan for a couple of weeks. You need also intelligence on who thinks about moving out, if you poach the wrong guy, it's gonna get to the CEO immediately. If you're gonna approach the wrong guy, it's gonna get to the CEO immediately.
The CEO knows. Let's talk about Sam Altman's response. Yes, I'll talk about Sam Altman's response. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to clarify on, a lot of people don't know Daniel Gross did actually have an AI background prior to his VC days. Around 10 years ago, he led AI at Apple for a few years. Oh, he started Y Combinator's first AI program as well. So it seems like he also has had a lot of experience in the field for a while now.
But there's also the fact that he's a co-founder of SSI, but also he invested in incredible amount of companies. By the way, full kind of open here, he also invested with Baidu as well, like a long time ago. Both he and Nat Friedman, with no affiliation to the stream, obviously. Just like incredibly prolific folks that know just incredible amount of stuff. Very knowledgeable folks. So
quick note for me here.
Yes.
To the paper, I see so much mention of vision and multimodal and so on. And when he wants something, he gets it. And he has been going for the metaverse for a long time, no matter what people say. That is the mission. And when I see those combined, now we are looking later at the game engine. So stuff that can create a metaverse for you by the on demand and so on. So I think that is also a big part, not even a change of the strategy, but another way to reach it. And at the same time, I think, like many, he probably also didn't expect AI to be as big at first. And now, I think he has the people that know that super intelligence is possible. And if we reach that, money will maybe not even matter anymore. So he can invest as much as necessary to get everybody and really push this forward.
I want to put this in context because I saw a tweet. Somebody looked up the public salaries of execs on the board and the execs in Meta. And the thing is, when you're an executive in a public company, you have to report the salaries. It has to do with the thing. But when you're not, you don't necessarily have to add this to the reporting structure as well. I think many of these folks get paid more than most executives at Meta, like probably all executives in Meta, including the chief product officer, chief technology officer, etc. I think Tim Cook's salary is like $79 million or something like this. those researchers get paid more than Tim Cook, one of the biggest CEOs in one of the biggest companies. Obviously, Tim Cook has different values-based compensation, but still, this is insane. The numbers are absolutely insane. If you think about Zuck's metaverse investment, they could lower down the metaverse investment a little bit and pay for all these people to build out the best AI in the world, and they won't even feel this, the meta things. Meta stock right now is super high. Like, it's been high and like it's super high, so it looks like the stock market likes this news. It's quite incredible that he just like money. Just like, this is organizational problems, whatever, money. Speaking of organizational problems, the folks at OpenAI who were not convinced and did not get an email from Zuck, some of them responded. Mark Chen, one of the main guys, I don't remember exactly Mark Chen's position in OpenAI, but he's one of the leading engineers folks. He commented, it feels like somebody broke into our house and stole something. Sam Altman sent a Slack to the team and said something to the point of missionaries will always beat mercenaries or something like this. And we've got some folks.
That goes hard. It goes hard.
Very carefully thought like statement there. Missionaries will win over mercenaries. Sam Altman also said, ultimately, I think the stock of OpenAI will be worth much more than the Meta stock, and also that they have the right people in place to do some stuff.
That's war, man. This is
it's
war.
It's a poaching war, and to win this, the checks are just like absolutely insane.
Cursor just snatched the Cloud Code team to their own. That's a killer hire, man. That's a killer hire. I didn't see
just before we move on to Cursor, though, and we definitely want to cover LDJ comments about the MSL, Meta Superintelligence Labs. We need to get to you to say MSL.
Yes, real quick. And for people unfamiliar or just tuning in, MSL stands for Meta Superintelligence Labs. And according to some leaked memos and reporting from Wired, it seems like you have FAIR, which is fundamental AI research for Meta. And then you have Gen AI, which was mostly doing the recent Llama models. So those are both folded in, but also there seems to be a new third organization where it's mostly this very talent dense 50 people team within MSL as well. And that arguably is maybe even the most important team. And that's what seems like Zuck is putting most of these people towards, is that new crack talent dense team, which is almost like a new small startup being created within MSL.
Yeah. And obviously, we don't need to forget Meta has a lot of GPUs and a lot of talent now. Very interesting dynamics he put in play here, with a lot of people getting paid just an obscene amount of money. And they don't need to climb career-wise anymore. Like, all these people, it's generational wealth.
Yeah, I just want to say that these things succeed not just because of the people that you put in. Like, you need the right organizational structure in order for them to thrive in such a large corporation.
Yep.
You've seen Google taking, I think, 2 years just to fit the organizational structure in order for Gemini to take up to speed. And I don't think anybody in the world would say that Google didn't have the talent. They had the talent all along. They had compute more than everybody else all along. Google has more compute than everybody else. And it still took around 2 years for them to figure out how to make the team thrive, give the team the resources that they need, and deploy the team's output in the right way for it to deploy on Google scale, which is huge. And we also got this pretty much confirmed from Jack and from Logan two weeks ago, saying exactly the same thing, that Gemini's secret is Google aligning the right corporate structure for the team to succeed, and we all see the results. So it's not just Zuck poaching the entire market into Meta.
Yeah.
He's also deliberately creating a completely new structure within Meta in order for it to succeed. And I hope it works. We all watch.
We all hope it works. We want to see Llama absolutely crush. We want to see a great Western competition to the myriads of open source like models coming out from China.
And I just don't want to give this opportunity away. Where is Apple Intelligence? I want to ask again.
Yeah. There's been rumors, I think you guys talked about this last week, that Apple is supposedly working with Anthropic on some stuff and have given up on internal building our own models like Dream. But yeah, we're yet to see. All right, folks, we have to move on because there's tons of stuff to talk about. But the last thing here in the sports news, which we're covering, is Cursor hiring like crazy. The latest two folks that Cursor has poached is Boris Cherny, who led the development of Cloud Code. Cloud Code, obviously, we covered. It's a great tool, incredible tool that many people love, including Yum here and other folks. Sphere is the company that builds Cursor, so Cursor is just the product of theirs. Boris joins as chief architect and head of engineering, which is a very high-level position for this company. Cat Wu, he is the product manager who worked also on Cloud Code. He joins as head of product at AnySphere. So great, two new hires, incredible hires for AnySphere.
It's absolutely crazy.
Yep. Folks, speaking of Cursor, we'll just mention this before we move on. Cursor also launches this week, also had a bunch of news launches, rolled out its AI coding agents on web and mobile. So developers can launch, monitor, and collaborate on code tasks on any device, which is super cool, including Slack. Now, Cursor from Slack, I haven't tested it myself, but yeah, they have a Slack integration. There's the... What's OpenAI's one? OpenAI has one. Codex.
Codex.
I forgot about Codex.
Yeah.
Even though Codex opens by far the most PRs on GitHub. There's like those for like online and go to GitHub, and there's the Cursor and Windsurf ones that are like native. And the lines are getting blurred. Like all the folks, the native ones, they know the people want to do this from the web. They're not always in front of their machines. So the lines are getting blurred. Cursor and Windsurf, I think, both now have background agents that run the open pull request. They are accessible via Slack and different things, real-time like team review, etc. So shout out to Cursor running on web. If you folks haven't tried this, if you have tried this, let us know in the comments. I would love to know. I'd love to bring somebody on here to talk to us about how that works. Maybe next week we'll chat with Brian, who's been all up in Cursor.
I can tell you that Codex on mobile is great. I just want to shout out to Codex. It's great. Seriously, I don't see a lot, but it's great. Speaking of editors, Visual Studio Code with all their 54,000 followers just retweeted my tweet from like a month ago. You guys remember we talked about Copilot code getting open sourced, and now it looks like it's actually out there. So they just retweeted this and then posted the link to open source. Not necessarily breaking news, but Copilot code is open source. The stuff the Cursor needed to clone and then build out, and Windsurf as well. Now everybody can basically do this as well. All right, folks, we are moving on. Yeah, that's a huge story on its own. The whole VS Code and not allowing the forks to fork. That's a whole huge story, man. There's so much going on.
I think the thing where like Microsoft invested in Cursor, but like Microsoft builds VS Code. There's like a whole thing. All right, we're moving on to big companies because we also have an interview coming up soon with Ivan, who's going to join us. I want to run through a few notable kind of like updates and then make sure that we cover them. I wanted to briefly let's talk about this one. A new secret 1 million context model is tested on OpenRouter. It's called Cypher Alpha. If you go to OpenRouter, you will see a 1 million context model with $0 per input token, $0 per output token. It's absolutely free because in order to train this, they will say this: all prompts and completions for this model are logged by the provider, may be used to improve the model. They've been doing some testing on this. I think from OpenAI was the last one that stopped going to LM Arena and went to OpenRouter. I think it was OpenAI.
I think so too. GPT 4.1.
Yes, 4.1 was tested on OpenRouter in kind of very similar way, where they basically say, hey, here is a model for free. The throughput is very good. It's 70 tokens per second, very low latency as well. The model is decent. I have seen it fail. It's not a reasoning model. You can see the token streaming like straight up. Definitely not a reasoning model. It's decent. I haven't had much time to test this. LDJ.
Yeah, we have confirmation from OpenAI that both their open source model coming up as well as GPT-5 will both have reasoning abilities. So I think we know for like pretty good chance this is likely not those.
No.
And some people have gotten this model to say that it's actually from Amazon. Doesn't seem like really quite frontier level, and it had a lot of refusal issues when I use it actually. And even just basic questions about Jan LeCun's papers, it would refuse to answer for some reason. But it seems like Amazon might be getting more into the game.
What's your gut feeling, say here?
I had it say it is Amazon Titan as well, which is a name you usually don't get from the models because a lot of models claim they are ChatGPT because it's in the training data so much. But Amazon Titan, I got it on 2 different occasions. So that was strange. And the quality, it's not a reasoning model. I had some questions about language. Find a word with a specific meaning and a specific number of letters, and it failed here. Of course, the letter stuff, they usually have issues with that due to the tokenizer, but still the bigger and better models do get that right. Let's see what it is. But Amazon, yeah, that was very surprising. So if I had to guess, I would bet on this.
Yeah. I just went to the model, asked our question, and then I asked, who trained you? And I've been trained by a team of investors, Cypher Labs. I was like, I don't know about Cypher Labs. Who are they? Yeah, it's an organization, blah, blah, blah. It invested something. Who is the CEO? And I said, I'm not able to provide the names of the CEO of Cypher Labs or any company leadership members. And then I said, who's the CEO of Amazon? And the Jesse. It looks like there's some system message, something trained to this model to not give out the fact that it's who trained it. We will say it's 1 million tokens. Not many labs that we know offer 1 million tokens. As far as I know, Gemini does. OpenAI with 4.1 has 1 million tokens. Qwen had 1 million tokens. I haven't seen other labs go all the way up there. And also, it's very fast and not thinking. Those are the things we know. Potentially, Amazon is testing their own model.
It could be a hybrid thinking model where they're thinking...
Could be. Absolutely could be. And that's why maybe for speed as well, if they're testing it for speed. All right, moving on in our news super quick. Folks, we have an upcoming interview as well with Ivan from Daytona, and it's going to come up very, very soon, so stick around for this. We are very well on our way to cross 8,000 views this week, so welcome everyone who's new. If you're new here, by the way, we're here every Thursday for the past 2.5 weeks, giving you everything that happens in AI, including deep dive interviews, technical interviews with actual folks who do in the RL, including top level interviews.
2.5 years, Alex.
2.5
years, not weeks.
If you are new here, to subscribe to ThursdAI and join us every week, either on our live stream or on our podcast and newsletter, sub.thursdai.news. Let's move on super quick to the next news in big companies and APIs. I do want to mention this super quick. Cloudflare, the company that has put a firewall in front of most of the internet, has announced a new initiative of theirs to say they are providing a one-click AI bot blocking. As obvious to all of you, all these models have been trained on all of the internet, and many of this were scraped previously for open source, even open research purposes, and the internet changes, it evolves. And so we have all these companies hit all the websites with bots. Cloudflare says this thing, and we definitely have not that much time to discuss this, but we should discuss. Cloudflare basically says when Google launched, Google gave a deal to the internet. We scrape your website, but we send you traffic. We read your website, we copy it into our servers, but we give you traffic, so that we'll send you people through a search engine, they discover you get traffic, and then they give you ads, etc. They're basically the monetization layer of the internet. Now they're saying with Google AI Mode, which we covered when it just launched on the show with Robbie Stein from Google, and other companies like Perplexity that just launched a $200 a month tier called Max, and other companies, excluding OpenAI and Anthropic, all these people, they use your website. Let's say I'm independent ThursdAI release. They scrape your website, but they don't send traffic anymore because users read the summary in OpenAI, in Google AI Mode, in different things. These companies train on your data, but they don't give anything back. And so the basic monetization structure of the internet is broken per the CEO of Cloudflare. And what they're saying is that we will help you protect against this. And if somebody wants to scrape your website, they have to pay. The protection is very interesting. They also revealed the scale and tactics of AI web scraping. They show who has good bots and who don't have good bots. There's a way to protect your website from scraping. Some bots can just ignore this protection as well.
There should be a license. There is no license, and there is no way to train or collect data legally for training models. People need to resort to collecting your data without telling you. And this is what we get. We get entire internet closing down behind APIs, behind paywalls, behind all sorts of defense mechanisms just for AI not to be trained on them. In real life, just like you have licenses for copyright material that you can use for different use cases of the same material, there should be some sort of a license that is agreed worldwide that allows you to train models. That's the problem. This is the whole legal battles going on all around the world at the moment about whether or not you should or should not train AI on your data. It should be solved in the future with a license that allows you to do this. And if you want, you can opt into this license and get royalties for your data. The fairest thing that you can do. But absolutely, I find myself not clicking links on Google for a couple of weeks already, since you just get AI results on Google.
It is incredible. And all I need is, why do I need to go to a website? Maybe show me ads.
All I need is attention. That's first. But I'm just joking. But yeah, you don't click the websites. it is a problem. It takes money from it is people's living at the end. Yeah, it's changing the economy.
Yeah,
absolutely
it's literally
fast.
changing the internet, and this is a very interesting attempt.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, did we cover Anthropic's fair use court case last week?
Yes. All right, folks. One last thing that I want to cover in the big labs is this huge thing. Let me run through the other things. Gemini 2.5 returned to the free tier of Google in the API. If you use this, awesome. I want to show this incredible graph and talk about Microsoft's MAI-DxO. It's an AI that outperforms doctors on open-ended medical cases of the, I think, medical research. They have built a model, basically a whole orchestration of models, including ensemble of models that show the Pareto frontier of cost of diagnostic accuracy and care administration cost. So in the US, obviously, it's very important, not only what the doctor will tell you what your diagnosis is, but also how much it's going to cost you to take care of it. It's a big problem. Cost administration is a big problem. They are showing an incredible Pareto frontier on diagnostic accuracy. They're claiming 87% or something like this, 85%. MAI-DxO is the setup that they have here. This is how it looks like. It can do a panel of doctors talking to you, a challenger agent and a hypothesis agent. And they use, I believe they use O3 for this, but they can select different models. And they have actions like asking a question, requesting a test, require diagnosis, provide diagnosis. They have solved percent from the New England Journal of Medicine toughest cases. 304, the toughest cases from New England Journal of Medicine. Toughest cases for diagnosis, they solved 85%, over 4 times the success rate of experienced physicians. I'll say again, over 4 times the result of experienced physicians. This is quite crazy. And it's obvious to all of us who've been tracking this field. Nissan obviously worked on the first medical doctor. We've been talking about medical AI for a while. We had Tanish Ibrahim here from cell phone. There's like a bunch of reasons for medical AI. I'm very happy that Microsoft is like stepping in there with some stuff.
Please still go to doctors even if they use ChatGPT. Don't use ChatGPT yourself and
don't
think
use
that
ChatGPT
you are
yourself.
the doctor. You go,
But I will say, if you have a doctor that does not use ChatGPT, find another doctor. It's time. It's time that your doctor will be AI superpowered as well. And as we say, you may not understand what ChatGPT answers you, but somebody like Dr. Dario Umutmaz, who was here on the show talking to us, and some other folks, the doctors, they read the ChatGPT output. They can know if it's bullshitting them or not. You cannot know this. If you're not a doctor, you don't know the hallucination points. Maybe if you're a coder, you know the hallucination points. If you're not a doctor, you don't know the hallucination points of ChatGPT as a doctor for you.
I just want to emphasize something if it's not clear. It's not that doctors doesn't know what they're doing and the AI is surpassing them, is that a medical field is advancing and doctors all the time need to be on top of the latest and greatest new treatments for whatever you come up with, whatever you come and present to them. This is a tool for them to sift and get the information as quick as possible. It's not that they don't know. There are simple explanations to how come AI is so much better than humans and so on, because the field is progressive all the time for tools to fetch information. So don't think that you can just go to ChatGPT. It's a tool for doctors, just like it's a tool for you for coding.
All right, folks, we are moving on as we have a very tight show. That's basically most of what we have in big companies' APIs. There's also the chai stuff. We'll skip that. At the end of the show, we'll talk about Mirage's real-time game engine, and we'll hopefully show you this. And maybe we'll get to a point of playing some cute AI stuff. But for now, we have a new friend here on the show. I want to welcome and say hi to Ivan. Maybe? I don't know how the best way to pronounce this.
Ivan is great.
Ivan Burazin from Daytona. Welcome to the show, sir. Your first time on the show here. We just met at the Engineer maybe 3 weeks ago, and I was very impressed with what you guys are doing. So maybe give some folks a context of who you are, and then we'll talk about Daytona and what you guys are building.
Sure. My name is Ivan. I'm the co-founder and CEO of a company called Daytona. Daytona is a cloud provider that provides agent-native runtimes, also known as sandboxes. Basically, we give your agents a computer so they can do things like code execution, they can do data analysis, data visualization, computer use, all the things that a human needs to get their job done, because we couldn't do a lot without computers today. We give that to agents, right? And so that's what we do. The company's called Daytona.
Yeah, we connect on this point, absolutely. Daytona is obviously, there's a famous beach there, but a famous racing track as well. And I invited you to the show just because you guys have been growing like crazy. Would love for you to maybe cite some numbers. I think you posted recently. Got me very excited. I wanted to understand why. And for many folks who have no idea about infrastructure, would like to have you tell people what is very exciting about the stuff that you guys do.
Sure. So we announced yesterday that we got to 1 million or a little bit over 1 million in annualized run rate. Basically, $84,000 we did last month, and that equates to about a million, right? And we launched the product just about 2 months ago, 2 months and a week ago. The company's been around for about 2 years, and then people are like, oh, it's 2 years, it's not 2 months. Yeah, because we started doing something different, and then we killed the old product. We let go of all our customers, went back to zero at the beginning of this year, and rebuilt the product specifically for agents. And so we started building it last week of January, and we launched it about 3 months after that. And so 2 months ago, a little more than 2 months ago, we launched it in public. It had just a few beta users then, and then skyrocketed. I think now there's about 15,000 people have signed up. There's 1,500 credit cards that are in there. And to be very clear, this is an infrastructure company, which is quite different than a consumer-facing company. So we have Bolt and Eric's done a great job in like the growth rate, and you saw Replic's growth rate and all these things. That's awesome and lovable. But the difference with infra is for a consumer product, that's for us here. You log in, you start working, you swipe your credit card literally 5 minutes later, and you start charging right away. For an infra, it's basically piping. The most popular infrastructure companies are obviously AWS, Twilio. Like these are companies where they're not customer facing. So the developer that's creating another product has to find you, integrate you, integrate you into the product. Then that product actually gets launched, probably by someone else. And then is that launch end-or product successful? And if it is, then the revenue goes up for you as the infra. And that's why we actually posted a chart of the most successful ones that we found, like Scale AI is there and whatnot, anything that we could find in infrastructure. And outside of AWS, which took 3 months, everyone else took like over a year, because that's the usual ramp up time for something like this. And that's why we shared. And also because the internet is full of hype, we actually showed our receipts. Like we actually put out data. So it's not just like hype, it's actual data. And if you scroll down in the article, there's actually the breakdown of customers and everything else. It's the last post. And you can scroll down there. There you have the customer breakdown, and that's like the revenue. You have the top customers like 23% in there. It's not $1 times whatever amount of users. You actually have usage. We obviously hid who they are.
Blurred out the names of the customers, obviously,
yeah,
so folks can see. All right, folks. Ivan, this is an AI show. We talk about things that happen in AI. I'm very happy that you guys reached there. But obviously, there's a reason why this is happening so fast.
Yeah.
Why is it happening so fast? So first of all, congratulations, huge congratulations. You're working nonstop. I asked you if you saw the F1 movie as a racing person. He's like, no, I don't even have time to see it yet, which you absolutely should. All of you should. It's an incredible movie. But you're working like crazy. Why is this happening so fast? Tell us. We want to know. Like 2025 is the year of agents. Everybody wants sandbox. Like, explain.
If you looked at the last AI engineer conference, not the one in San Francisco, but in New York, they were both Anthropic and OpenAI at that same conference actually redid their definition of what an agent is. And this is what, 3 months ago, 6 months ago, whatever, like February, quite recently. They said in both cases, there's like a runtime or environment, like in their definition. And so that happened quite recently, that not even they were generally aware that was a need for an agent. I guess we're all just awestruck with what ChatGPT, Claude, and all these agents can do. You didn't even think about what you can do after that. And when you start getting into these more complex things, oh, I need to clone a GitHub repository. Where does the agent do that? I have to show you a preview of the code I did. Where does an agent do that? We have agents actually playing video games and building video games. Like, where do they do these things, right? And so the need has only now come. So it's like perfect timing. To be clear, I didn't get into history. I've been building dev environments for 15 years. So it's like perfect timing of 15 years of your career.
It's over 15 years.
15 years. Yeah. I've lost my hair, all the things, everything. And so we came out and launched this product. And data-wise, the agent year of the agent, I don't have a lot of data because there's not a lot. But what I do have is YC's last batch, 37% of the companies were building agents. So the SaaS products, the mobile products, are no longer deterministic SaaS like services. They are agents, meaning that you, as a user of their products, come in and for each task, a new agent is spun up, right? And the vast majority of those agents for every single task will need a runtime. Now, are they running on Daytona? Some of them they are. They're not all, and hopefully we'll solve that. I don't know the stats of the new batch, but I'm pretty sure it's more than 37%. It's probably in the 50, 60%. And so more and more companies are essentially building agents as services for their end customer, for the end user. And those end users have requests. And for each of those requests, they have to spin up at least one sandbox. And I did like the math. If you look at that, about 3 billion like tech savvy people in the Western world are your customers. if they use, right now we use about 10 apps a day. And if you calculate that they'll have 5 to 10 requests a day, you get into some like silly number of like 167 trillion of these things get spun up in a year. Now, the time of them, some of them will last for 10 seconds, some of them will last for 10 hours, but that's just like a very large number. And I'm probably completely wrong, but I'm probably wrong in the direction that I put it too low, right? And as we're getting into the world of these agents, all these agents will need this type of tooling. And there's even more tooling coming up, which we don't know about. And someone else will be probably solving that too.
We have quite a lot of technical folks listening to the show, but some are not necessarily technical. We talked previously, before you came on, about Cursor moving to the web and Cursor being available on the web. This is like a great example of a sandbox environment that you guys offer, basically, right? For folks who are listening, the infrastructure that you provide, where Cursor previously runs on your computer, executes on your computer, you, the developers, in charge of all the ports and whatever. When Cursor needs to move to the web, or OpenAI's Codex is running on the web, or GitHub Copilot's thing, they have an agent there as well. That needs an execution environment. That needs a little computer that's not connected to another little computer by somebody else that has dedicated. Tell us about the security.
If you look at Cursor, they're not a customer, unfortunately. Cursor had this article way back when, which is called the Shadow Workspace, and it went into detail how Cursor's agent, the local agent, worked. And basically, when you use Cursor, it would spin up an invisible window of another Cursor. And so there, the agent will actually have a replica of your files and try to simulate what you need and try to figure out and do that in advance and then feed you that actual answer. And that's how they're able to do these things well. But what it couldn't do, because it's your computer it's running on, they couldn't actually run the code. They couldn't update something, install, to do dependency, because if they do that, it would screw up product. Theoretically, they could have, and they were thinking about that. Maybe they spin up another Docker container or whatever. But then you're like working on local environments, and you, as the provider, Cursor, doesn't know if you have enough space for it, doesn't know if the networking is right. So many problems with that. And so the only way to give the Cursor, the agent, the ability to copy that runtime and then safely, but maybe break it, maybe solve it, is to give it a runtime somewhere remotely, which is a cloud, what we call a sandbox or an agent runtime.
All right, folks, I wanted to highlight this very important piece of AI infrastructure that's coming, because obviously, as we're talking about agents, it feels like most of the stuff that we now need from AI requires some sort of computation at some point. A lot of it is in the prediction of tokens, obviously, but much of this now is in code. Like, we all use Cursor and Cloud and all these things. Many agents will need to execute environments, building like UIs, etc. All of this will need this infrastructure. We wanted to highlight this. I wanted to ask my colleagues here if they have any questions for you super quick. If not, I just wanted to highlight a very important piece of infrastructure we haven't covered yet on the show. We only cover releases, but I wanted to make sure that folks know there's a lot going on in this world. Any questions for Ivan?
Yeah, I could ask about how is it internationally, the availability for international customers, and like in the EU, we always have these GDPR restrictions and stuff like that. Is there anything you can talk about that?
Yeah, I'm in Croatia right now, so I'm very familiar with the Euro regulations. So Daytona, the way we built it, and just to give credit to my engineering team and my CTO, how they solved it, and it gets into your explanation. Most of the agentic runtimes that you will see and use from other cloud providers or competitors or whatnot, most of them are basically just serverless offerings. And serverless offerings work really well, but they're all made for deployment. They're made to run a very short amount of time, and they're usually very small in compute because they were made to scale the delivery of websites or functions or whatever it may be. You have a burst of people, you spin that up, solve and spin it down. The interface for that works great for an agent because there's like nice API endpoints, they're really quick to spin up and all these things, but it's a different use case because agents, for some of the use cases it works, but if you have a coding agent, for example, and it's trying to solve a problem for 4 hours or 5 hours, or it wants to do something and come back, they can't use most legacy tech. So it's really hard to use Lambda for that because it has to run forever. And so when we were building this, my CTO actually made it so that Daytona feels serverless, but it's actually stateful 100%. So it's like an oxymoron. It's a stateful serverless. So it can spin up really fast and last forever, and it can be really large in size. And the way we did that is we don't use the orchestrator platform, like it's not Kubernetes or anything else off the shelf. We made our own. What that enables us to do is we built Daytona to run on bare metal machines. So we went all the way down to metal and created all the software all the way up, which enabled us to have stateful serverless, basically. But what that also enabled us to have is a lot of regions. Right now we have East Coast, West Coast of the US. We have one in UK, one in Germany, and one in India. One for latency, because you want to be close to the agent as you can. But two, for your question, your answer, if you just want to keep it in the EU, you can very well keep it in the EU or anywhere else.
No, that's great.
Yeah, but thanks.
Yeah. All right, folks. Thank you, Ivan, from Daytona. Folks, if you're building agents that need access to computers, Daytona is the provider for you. Go and check them out. This is not sponsored. Ivan is somebody I just met, an AI engineer.
Not paid you even a coffee.
I wanted to highlight this very important piece of like infrastructure that's happening, because the next thing we're going to show, feel free to shout out your folks. Actually, let me give you a spot. Shout out everything you want to shout out, everybody in the company, or like how folks can get started.
So I'll do two things. One, it's open source, so you can do that. Daytona.io, GitHub/Daytona.io. Feel free to use it. If you sign up, you can get $200 of credits out of the box. We also have a large credit offering for startups, so up to $50,000 of compute usage, which is a lot. Daytona.io/startups. If you have a startup and you raised anything, we're happy to support you as well. There's my shout out, and appreciate it, Alex, a lot.
Thank you so much for coming, folks. We're moving on. And I like the piece by saying that the next thing that I'll show you probably needs an execution environment of some sort as well. We're showing Mirage. I have seen this 5 minutes before the show. I don't know if folks, you already saw this or not. Mirage is a world's first, that's what they say on the website, world's first AI native UGC game engine. UGC is user-generated content game engine powered by real-time world model. Real-time world model is, there's two demos here. One of them is a driving demo, and one of them is a urban chaos demo, GTA style, and this one is a Forza Horizon style. When I click this button, I get started in an environment from scratch of this dude walking. On the bottom left, I see a map, and this is very similar to what we saw before, but I can hit the left key, and the camera will start rotating. And this is all generated in real time. And I can jump and hit the space bar, and after 1 second it should jump. Come on, it jumped before. See, there's a jump, there's cars standing and parked, there's street lights that currently show both the orange and the green lights, and you can run, and basically it's a game engine. You can run, you can jump, you can do multiple things. It's very crazy. You can see at some point my dude that jumps, it goes into a park, and let's see if I can jump into the park. This is in real, like almost real-time game engine. That
everyone can just go on the site and do this?
Yes.
What?
.dynamicslab.ai. If you guys go there after you watch a stream, not right now, you can see the actions you can take. You can actually fight even. You can do F and V. Let me see if I can shoot here. F.
Bro,
this is insane.
This is insane.
Insane.
We've seen demos of this before, but we haven't seen this deployed.
I want to drive.
Whoa.
I want to show you
We
the
had
driving
one
part.
just recently on the show where you could, it was just moving. I don't even know if we had a character, but we had it on the show just recently. It was only 30 seconds or something. Remember where you can just, you take a picture.
Yeah,
and
you're talking about morph labs. Morph
Yeah,
labs.
exactly.
Look
Yes.
at this. Look at this,
So
man.
folks who are listening,
Wow.
the thing that Yam is shouting, look at this, folks who are listening, I moved to a different demo. This is a racing car type demo. There is a car here that drives right now through a field of grass. There is car reflections on the top window of the sky window.
It
Crazy
looks
because
like a game. It just looks like a real game.
it's a game. The details are not perfect, obviously,
Okay.
and the delay. But
Look,
we're
wait,
getting
wait.
to a point. This is like crazy.
We know if this is like video generated or 3D generated. What do we know about this? It's
Video.
crazy good.
This is a world model, basically. Now,
So it
the thing that I want to
generates the
highlight.
pixels?
Yeah, all these pixels. are real.
Wow, man, whoa.
It looks like a 3D engine, but it's not.
It looks
It's like,
amazing.
now, things do disappear. It's not like perfect, etc. But obviously, this is a new thing. They have a feature here. The upload your own image feature is early preview, may not work reliably. For best results, try using image for a third-person car driving game. So basically, you can create these worlds by uploading one picture, like we do videos. So here's the initial images you can see on the right. It's very impressive. So this is called
Absolutely.
Mirage. And this is that's why they call this a UGC, because you can upload your content. We don't have that much time. I need to drop like literally in the next 2 minutes. But the thing that I wanted to show you, and this generates a video for you can download. It's quite something. You guys should
And
definitely
you can
try
type
this.
text prompt, so you can change the world by just inputting stuff.
Yeah, and it's
Okay, just-
almost real time.
Just to explain to everyone who's watching, what is special about this is that it's generated on the fly. There is no game. behind this.
Yeah.
It can be anything that you want. You want the game to be a different thing, you upload an image and boom, you got yourself a completely new game for you.
Interactive, 16 frames per second.
That's the beginning of it. Custom games, custom shows, custom movies, custom songs, custom to you, to what you like, infinite amount of songs. There are no pictures behind the generated pictures. There are no movies behind the generated movies. It's infinite. And like, I haven't seen anything like this before. It's interactive and it's amazing. It just looks amazing.
So cool. So you guys definitely should check out Mirage Labs. I'll send the link if you have missed this at the end of the show. Folks, the last thing that we don't have time to get to, unfortunately, because today's show is going to be exactly on time because I do have to run. We have 2 TTS releases. One of them is finally Qt.ai. Qt.ai from Moshi released the Qt.ai TTS, Sage kind of like pipeline of text to speech and then speech generation and then speech to text, multiple stuff. They have multiple voices there. They sound fairly realistic for open source. It's great. It's honestly great. We'll hopefully play a bit of a sample for you later. And also Quen, our folks from Quen launched Quen TTS. They have Chinese dialects, as Wolfram told me today. They also have English as well. And I think we covered pretty much everything besides this workflow that I want to tell you about. Restyling, please subscribe to the newsletter to read about this workflow because we literally are at 2 hours and 2 minutes exactly. We had 8,500 folks tune into the show. For some reason, Yam went viral. 7,000 people tuning to this stream. Everybody for tuning in for ThursdAI. If you liked any part of the show, if you like the banter that we have here, if you like the guests that we have here, if you like the level of detail we go into, we do this. Huge thanks for my co-host, Wolfram Yam Peleg, LDJ, and Nistan was here as well. Our 2 guests, Michael Luo and Ivan Burazin from Daytona, and everybody here who tuned in, listened, and commented. We really appreciate all your patronage. We love this. The best way to support the show is to subscribe onto the newsletter and podcast and share it with a few friends. The sponsor for the show is Weights and Biases. As always, go and check it out, and we'll see you here next week. Bye-bye, everyone. Bye-bye.